qu'il passe. Moi, je pleure le peuple français. Mais quand même, il est bien pour l'Afrique. Il est un mal nécessaire pour nous. Contre l'impérialisme, c'est ça. Il faut décoloniser les mentalités. Prendre en compte toutes ces données-là. Parce que le monde nous donne tellement d'exemples à voir. Pour eux, il n'y a pas de morale. Ils peuvent vous désigner aujourd'hui terroriste, mais demain, vous êtes un héros. Par leur simple bouche. Ils décident de ce qu'ils font. Ils parlent de démocratie, mais ils se font eux-mêmes des coups d'État.
My fellow Africans, there comes a time in every man's life when silence becomes betrayal, to sought none of others but of himself. Today I choose not to be silent. They told me to speak less, to avoid certain words, to let things be as they've always been. But how can I stand before you, Sas, in the face of so much suffering, so much exploitation, so much distortion, Sas, and say nothing? They warned me. They said this is not how presidents talk. And they said this will make you enemies. They said you'll isolate yourself and your country. But what they forget is this. I was not raised to please systems. I was raised to serve people, and my people, Asar, deserve the truth. The truth is that Africa is not poor. The truth is that Africa is not weak. The truth is that Africa is not failing. What is failing is the system that was never designed to see us rise. It is a system that praises us when we're silent, but punishes us when we speak. A system that builds roads to our resources, but never to our schools. That flies in aid, but flies out profit. I do not speak today with anger. I speak with clarity, because for too long we have mistaken diplomacy for silence and peace for submission. That ends now. This is not a call for rebellion. This is a call for reawakening. I am not against any nation. I am not against the West. I am not against global partnership. But I am against dependency. I am against being told what our future should look like by those who do not live it with us. I am against policies written in rooms where Africans are not invited, yet expected to obey. We have allowed the world to define us for too long. They define our leaders by how much they borrow. They define our progress by how stable we remain SI even when we're stuck. But I believe in a different Africa, an Africa that builds IEC, not begs, that negotiates SOT, not kneels, that remembers who she is before asking who she should be. And this is why we're choosing a new path, not one of isolation, but one of dignity. You see, they didn't just warn me about what I would say. They warned me about what I would inspire. They fear that if one African nation stands, others may rise. They fear that if one voice speaks boldly, 1,000 more will echo. But my message today is not just to leaders. It is to the farmer who has been taxed beyond his harvest, to the youth whose degrees have become decorations, to the mother who carries water farther than the state carries its promise. I see you, I hear you, and I will not lie to you. Africa's healing will not come from outside. It will not come from loans. It will not come from charities. It will not come from applause. It will come from within, from a generation that chooses courage over convenience, from a continent that finally says, we are enough. In the next part of this message, I will speak about the real reason they wanted this voice silenced, and what lies behind the closed doors of global deals you are never meant to see. But for now, remember this. Africa is not waiting to be saved. Africa is remembering she was never lost. My brothers and sisters, truth does not shout. It doesn't burn cities. It doesn't break peace. It simply waits or at the... And when the people are ready, it walks in quietly and changes everything. What I want to share with you today is not a secret. It was never hidden under lock and key. It was simply buried under noise, the noise of headlines, of distractions, of carefully chosen words. I want to talk to you about the deals. not the ones that are signed with pens, but the ones that are signed with silence. For many years, African leaders have entered rooms with the hope of progress. But often they left those rooms with conditions, with clauses, with expectations that did not align with our realities. Infrastructure loans, security partnerships, investment packages, these sound good also, and on the surface they are, but what was rarely discussed publicly is what these agreements sometimes require in return. Sometimes it's the first right to extract our minerals. Sometimes it's long-term control over our ports, our power, or even our digital networks. And sometimes it's simply access SOA to influence our policies, to shape our decisions. Now hear me clearly, this is not a message against cooperation. Africa must work with the world. We are global citizens, but cooperation is not submission, and partnership is not permission. When we accept assistance, it must be on terms that respect our people, not reduce them. When we open our markets, it must be with eyes wide open, plus knowing who benefits and how. They warned me not to talk about this. They said I would be seen as anti-investment, that I would scare away the goodwill we spent decades trying to build. But I believe real goodwill comes with honesty. And real progress cannot be built on silence. When we discuss investments in Africa, we must ask, who owns the company? Where do the profits go? Who will maintain the project when the ribbon-cutting ceremony is over? Because development that does not include us is not development, it is dependency. Let me share something with you. And there is a quiet shift happening across this continent. Young Africans are reading contracts. They are questioning data. They are refusing to believe that just because something is international, it is always right. This is what they didn't expect, that we would wake up, that we would ask for fairness, SODA, not favors. And this new generation, they are not angry. They are not violent. They are aware. And awareness is the beginning of freedom. So what do? We educate ourselves. We hold our own leaders accountable. We demand that partnerships bring skills, not just statistics. That they bring knowledge transfer, not just job titles. We must build institutions that protect our interests. Not just individuals who sign papers. I do not say these things to point fingers. I say them to point forward. Africa's future must be written with us in the room, with our hands on the pen, and with our children in mind. The world will not give us this place. We must claim it with dignity, vision, and unity. My sons and daughters of Africa, let me speak to you not as a president, but as a brother, as a father, as someone who believes deeply in your future. They told me, young Africans don't care. They only chase the internet. They follow trends, not truth. But I have seen otherwise. I have met students who walk for hours just to attend evening classes. I have watched young farmers innovate with technology to fight drought. I have seen coders in cafes, nurses in remote clinics, and youth leaders organizing with no cameras watching. The world often sees you through a narrow lens, but I see you as the pulse of this continent. And instead, those who underestimated you, they are starting to realize something powerful. You are not just the future, you are the now. You are questioning, you are building, you are refusing to accept the same answers that were given to your parents. And that is why they are concerned. Not because you are angry, but because you are aware. This is the generation that is reading history also and refusing to repeat it. The generation that knows their ancestors were not primitive, but powerful, that Africa's civilizations were not discovered kaiti arete. They were interrupted, and now you are reconnecting the story. Some will try to distract you. They will give you entertainment without education. loud voices without substance, fame without purpose. But remember that you were born with a mission, even if you don't see it yet. You were not born to leave your continent. You were born to lead it. You were not born to imitate others. You were born to inspire others. Do not let the world define your worth by likes, passports, or salaries. Let it be defined by impact. Build platforms, build policies, build peace, because you are the bridge between a past that was stolen and a future that is rising. Some say youth must wait their turn. I say youth must create their turn, I add, with wisdom, with unity, and with vision. Do not wait for permission to build Africa. Begin wherever you are, with whatever you have in the way. Only you can. And remember, ayaste endoso. Not everyone will understand you. Some will even resist you. But that's because change, even when peaceful, feels like disruption to those used to comfort. To the elders of this continent, our fathers, our mothers, our teachers, and our mentors, as here. Today I speak to you with deep respect. You walked through storms so we could have roads. You endured indignity so we could speak freely. You held this continent together when it was breaking apart. We are not here to blame you. We are here because of you. Yes, some mistakes were made. Some deals were signed that cost us. Some chances were missed. But who among us has never made a decision under pressure? Who among us has not done the best they could with what they had? You carried the burden of independence. You stood between colonizers and chaos. You led when the world gave you little room to lead. And now, as a new generation rises, we are not here to erase your legacy by torture. We are here to build upon it. You see, the world often tries to divide us class, young versus old. But Africa does not need a generational war. Africa needs generational wisdom. The energy of the youth and the experience of the elders. Together, they are unstoppable. To our elders, we need you, not just for your memory, but for your perspective. You remember a time when Africa stood taller, I'll say, when nations were proud to be independent, when leaders met not just as heads of state, but as brothers in vision. Remind us of those days. Help us return to that fire. But we also ask this, let the youth lead where they are ready. Let them make mistakes, also, and learn. Let them rise AC, even if they rise differently than you did. Sometimes leadership is not holding the microphone. It is stepping back and clapping for the next speaker. Sometimes guidance is not control. It is trust. To the generation who carried Africa through fire, now help carry her into flight. This is not a time for ego. This is not a time for fear. This is a time for courage together. As we build new systems, as we rewrite policies, as we imagine a new Africa, we want your voices in the room. But we also ask that you leave space for new voices to rise. Africa does not belong to the past or to the future, das Komon-Tok. It belongs to all of us in this present moment. And so to our elders, let's walk together. Let's dream together. Let's rebuild together, my beloved Africa. Not all control comes with force. Not all battles are fought with bullets. Some are waged in silence, in contracts, in currencies, in perception. There are powers that do not need to raise their voices quite, because they have already shaped the narrative. They do not need to occupy land possible, because they already occupy the mind. Today, I want to speak about the invisible chains that still hold us, not because we are weak, be as tortured, but because the world has grown smarter about how it maintains influence. Let us begin with currency. Many African nations still use currencies that are pegged or printed abroad. And while the paper says Africa, the power behind it does not always serve African interests. We ask if we are independent, Why do we still depend on approval to value our economies? Why do we pay reserves to institutions that were never created for us? This is not rebellion. This is a question of dignity. If we are to trade as equals, we must first own what we trade with. Next, also the narratives. Africa has long been described as poor, unstable, in need of saving. These are not just stories, they are tools. Because when the world believes a continent is broken, it becomes easier to fix it our case on terms that benefit others. We see this in media, in textbooks, even in the language of diplomacy. So we must reclaim our Imageseite, not by denying our challenges, but by telling our stories with truth and balance. We are not just a continent of need, we are a continent of solutions. We are not just struggling to catch up, we are preparing to leap forward. And finally, our contracts. Across Africa, deals have been signed that stretch for generations. Mining agreements, port operations, agricultural land use. Often these agreements were made under pressure, without transparency, and without the consent of the people they affect. This is not to blame anyone, but to remind us sovereignty is not just a flag. It is the ability to decide your destiny. We must revisit these contracts with honesty, not hostility, with negotiation, not accusation, with courage, not conflict. Because fairness is not anti-business. Transparency is not anti-investment. When Africa knows its worth, the world will begin to value us differently. I say these things not to divide, but to awaken. The world does not owe us fairness. We must demand it with clarity and unity. And to do that, we must first believe that we deserve better. My dear African brothers and sisters, if you have listened this far, then you already know Ayedinse. This message is not just from me. It is from every voice that was once silenced, every dream that was once delayed, every child that was once told to wait. Now, I want to speak plainly, not as a soldier, not as a president, but as a man who believes. I believe Africa can feed itself, not just with food, but with dignity. I believe African children can grow up learning about kings and queens who looked like them RS, not only in fairy tales, but in history books. I believe our hospitals can heal without needing to send patients abroad. That our engineers can build bridges that connect more than roads. They connect dreams. I believe in a future where a passport that says Africa opens more doors than it closes, where borders become bridges, and unity is not just a slogan, but a system. They warned me not to say this, not because it is wrong, but because it might ignite something they cannot control, hope, because hope is dangerous. Hope wakes up the farmer before sunrise. Hope drives the student to study with candlelight. Hope tells a single mother her child will live a better life. Hope is what they cannot regulate. They can influence policies, they can shape headlines, but they cannot kill a dream that has taken root in the hearts of millions. And this is the dream that one day a child born in Bujumbura, raised in Dakar, educated in Nairobi, and working in Accra Toto, will not be seen as a foreigner, but as a rightful heir to the African promise that we will no longer ask for a seat at global tables silent. We will build our own, that we will no longer apologize for wanting better. We will prepare to receive it. This dream is not mine alone. It is whispered in classrooms. It is chanted in the streets. It is carried in songs and painted on murals. It lives in you. So I say this to every African who has ever felt small. Sako Pit, you are not as. To every African who has ever been told to wait till us. Your time is now. To every African who has ever wondered if this continent can rise, look around you, it's already is. They warned me not to say this, but it began with a whisper that became a voice, and a voice that became a movement, and no one can stop a people who remember who they are. Africa, the time is no longer coming. The time is here.